Hey, what is going on, you guys? JPB Productions here. Today is an absolutely big day. Obviously, I'm very late to this video, but I'm making it now. Phenomenal, phenomenal day 2 weeks ago where Mike Gabler pulled out the win, and he pulled it out for the veterans. He gave 100% of his winnings to the vets. I will talk about that later. Very, very wholesome, selfless act. He is a heart valve specialist. They do make pretty good money within the corporate world. But it was still very, very generous of him to do that. So I thought that was really, really cool. But Gabler winning, never something I ever saw coming, really, at any point in the game. He was my first boot prediction. Cannot believe that my first boot prediction won the game. That's crazy. It happens a lot, though, where like my first boot prediction does really well in the game. But I've never had a first boot prediction win. So, very interesting. I mean, but it has happened before. Julie in Edge of Extinction and Nora in Island of the Idols, I predicted them as first boots, and then they made it to the final three. But I've never had somebody win. So, crazy. Absolutely insane. Gabler winning. We're not used to seeing people like Gabler play Survivor, so to have him come in and win the entire game, it was absolutely mind blowing. It was crazy to see. So this finale starts off. They all head to a new island, and the finale immediately starts where they have to go for the advantage. It was a challenge advantage. I feel like they probably should have spiced it up and made it a different advantage. I don't know what they would have made that advantage be. Maybe like an extra jury vote or a remove a juror. Well, I don't really like the remove a juror advantage, but maybe like an extra jury vote to your name or something like that. I feel like I like this. I feel like it's like a last twist to implement into the game to make things more interesting. But I just feel like they should have introduced a new advantage that wasn't the same as what they did in 41 and 42. But, I respect production's decision. So they're all fighting for it. They all really want it. I mean, it's the last advantage of the game. Why wouldn't you want it? So everybody tries really, really hard to try and get it. And then Carla gets it, and then you have that funny moment where Owen's like, the last person I wanted to see get this gets it. So it seemed to me before the challenge, everyone was like, Carla needs to go, Carla needs to go, and Jesse's name like wasn't even an option. I mean, he had the idol, but they didn't know that he had the idol. So I thought it was very, very interesting how his name was like not even an option. And Carla wrote it down, the tribal council. But it seemed to me like nobody really wanted Jesse to go home. Maybe they thought he'd be easy to beat in the Final Four Immunity Challenge and beat in Fire. Maybe they thought Carla was better in Fire. She had already proven to be better at individual immunity challenges than Jesse, so maybe that's why people thought that Carla should go over Jesse. People being Cassidy and Owen. I don't know. And they were just like totally underestimating Gabler. I mean, obviously, Jesse and Carla both beat Gabler. I mean, there's like a world out there maybe where Gabler's able to beat Carla because Gabler beat Cassidy 7-1 zip. I don't think anybody would have expected that to happen. So if Gabler's beating Cassidy and Owen 7-1 zip, maybe it's a similar story if he's sitting at the end with Carla. But my point is, they all kind of came into this finale being like, okay, Jesse and Carla are the front runners. Jesse made this massive move to take out Cody. Very, very impressive move. I've never really seen anything like that. So Jesse came into this finale as a massive threat. And he wasn't even an option to go home at Final Five. People just didn't care. He had his name written down once because Carla did that just to ruin his perfect game. And I mean, hey, if Carla had the idol gotten played on her from Jesse, then all of a sudden it's a massive move, right? Jesse votes for Cassidy, and then Carla votes for Jesse. Everybody else votes for Carla. Carla's 3 votes get nullified, and then Jesse's able to go on the revote, and all of a sudden it's this amazing move for Carla if she's able to make it to the end. So Carla voting for Jesse was a very good move, and a lot of people think it was a bad move. No, it was not. Jesse was contemplating playing the idol for her, and if she actually does that, then things work out. However, maybe it would have been a better move. I mean, really, for even if this is like an unrealistic goal, Carla was in a really bad spot this Final Five vote. If Cassidy or Gabler goes home, Gabler was the biggest jury threat, so and also fire threat. So maybe Gabler going home or Cassidy was a better move, but just like one of those two goes home. Owen was safe, so he couldn't go home. it puts Carla in a situation going into Final Four where Jesse is the biggest threat to win. Everybody needs him out. So then at that point in time, maybe Carla is able to sit at the end with Owen and one of Cassidy and Gabler, and then maybe Carla's able to win the game. But Carla wasn't really in a position where she could do much. I kind of assumed that she was going to be the boot of the finale boot. You know, in my last video, which was a long time ago, I'm very late to this. I mean, I was going to make this video pretty quickly after because I was really excited that Gabler won, but due to the fact that there was no other episode, I didn't really feel particularly rushed to film this. But I did predict. I was like, okay, Carla 5, Jesse 4, Owen 3, Cassidy 2, Gabler 1. The edit didn't really make much sense for Gabler to win, but I felt like he was the best position. If you really watch the season and you really pay attention to who was close with who, it's not shocking that Gabler wins. It really isn't. And I think it was like shocking to a lot of people that he did win. It was funny to a lot of people. It felt like we hopped into an alternate universe where Gabler actually wins. It didn't feel like he actually won. It felt like we were like hopping into an alternate universe where he does win. It was nuts. It was crazy to see. Like I can't believe that Gabler won. It was crazy. So yeah, Carla ends up going home. Before that, we had another sanctuary reward. What was the deal with the sanctuary this season? Like in 41 and so 41, they didn't even show the sanctuary sign, and then 42, maybe they showed the sanctuary sign, or maybe they only did that in 43, right? Where it just says sanctuary. But they did one sanctuary reward in 41 and 42, and then this season it's the new Applebee's. I mean, they kept on bringing you back to the sanctuary. There wasn't like multiple reward locations. It was just the sanctuary, and then you kept on going back there every time that there was a reward win. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then yeah, Owen won immunity, which I was happy that Owen won largely because I knew he didn't have anything to worry about. You know, Jesse could be saved by his idol, so him winning. Maybe it's exciting who he plays the idol on, but you know he's safe anyways. It doesn't really matter. Gabler was, I thought, a bigger threat than Cassidy and Owens, and him winning to some. The point is, all the threats were more vulnerable in the grand scheme of things by Owen winning immunity, where it didn't really affect anything. So I was happy that Owen won, so that it didn't like make things too obvious. But yeah, so we ended up having they have a bit of their discussion there. Owen takes Cassidy on the reward, and then Cassidy and Owen are just talking. They're like, well, you know, Cassidy's just like, I need Carla out for vengeance. I don't want her in this game, and she's a threat. Jesse's easier to take out, but also Jesse, he pulled off that massive move. So I think that Cassidy and Owen just kind of knew, like, okay, Gabler's not going to be taken really seriously at the end. So just a matter of, okay, we need Jesse and Carla gone before the end. What would be the safer order to take them out? Which one is better to take to the Final Four? So that if one goes at Final Five, the one that sticks around, we can take out at Final Four. Gabler's good at fire. Owen's pretty good too. So one of those two can go into fire with the one amongst Jesse and Carla that is there at Final Four, and we can take them out. And I guess they just thought Carla was a bigger physical threat, which is true. It's true. Carla won more individual immunities, and Jesse lost the Final Four immunity challenge anyways. So I think that was just kind of their mentality. I mean, Jesse kind of got Rick Devens, but you know the thing is with the Final Four fire making twist, it gives a lot of people think it gives an unfair advantage to like the person that would have won. It gives the person that should have, would have, or should have won or whatever, you know, people say, you can still get that person out at Final Four if there's just better challenge threats and better fire threats. The biggest issue with the Final Four fire making twist, and the reason why I personally don't like it, is that it actively incentivizes you to take out that fourth placer at Final 7, Final 6, or Final 5. Look at David Wright, for instance. Huge threat. But everybody knew that he was the best shield in the world. So they took him to Final Four, beat him in the challenge. Congratulations. Ken was a threat in challenges, physical threat. He won, and then David went home. If the Final Four fire making twist is in the game, and they know about it, then they take him out at 7 or 5. He had individual immunity at Final 6, but they take him out at 7 or 5 because they didn't want to take him too close to the end at that point. So this big threat that keeps on going home at Final 4, it's a bad twist because they'll just take out that person earlier. It doesn't really make any sense. So I don't agree with it personally. I think it's a bad twist. You know, you get what I mean? Like that person wouldn't go home at Final 4. They'd go home before that. So I don't agree with it. That's the main reason why. So I just don't think it's a good twist. I don't. So yeah, Carla ends up going home. She didn't have the shot in the dark that she could use anymore, so there wasn't really much that she could do to save herself other than convince people that Jesse's a bigger threat than her. and get Jesse to play the idol on her. Bit of a long shot. So he's kind of assumed Carla was gone. Yeah, so that happens in Survivor. It does mean that you did something wrong as a player, but there wasn't much given the situation where Carla actually could do something to save herself. So I don't particularly blame her. After she lost the immunity challenge and that advantage didn't give her much of a edge, I kind of assumed she was gone. Things got a little bit more interesting at Final Four, where you weren't as sure what was going to happen based off of most people, but I was like, Jesse's going to win in such a landslide at the end. And he has to be the fallen angel. And I felt like I was the only person that actually thought he was the fallen angel. There was so many people who were like, Jesse's a huge threat. He's going to win. He's the best edit, best game, everything. So they all thought magically he was going to win at the finale. And I'm like, it's too obvious. He has to be, he's not going to win because everybody knows he's going to win. It's going to be an easy unanimous vote. He's going to be the next perfect game. So I was like, there's no way. This dude has to lose. There's no way Jesse's actually going to win this thing. So I didn't think it was particularly likely. Because it's too obvious. So I didn't think Jesse was actually going to win. So we go into this Final Four challenge, and it was really tight. Owen was doing very well in most of it. Gabler, it was really funny how he was Jeff was like, well, the only way Gabler's going to win this challenge is if the wind makes it go down, and then Gabler's like, come on, wind. I just thought it was funny. Gabler did a lot of things that were funny this season. I'm really happy he won. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. I'm riding on that Gabler galleon. Gabler, hashtag Gabler all the way. So happy he won. So Cassidy ends up winning the final immunity challenge. Owen was in it for a while, and then everything drops with Owen. For some reason, I thought Owen was going to win that challenge. And then everything just drops, and then Cassidy wins. And I was like, oh, okay. But Jesse, it seemed like he wasn't even particularly in the challenge. So as soon as Cassidy won, I was like, Jesse's gone. Jesse's gone. There's no proof to me. We haven't seen Jesse make fire ever. I think on the original Vesey tribe, he was somewhat helpful. But Cody was the main reason for fire being made. Dwight helped a little bit, but I don't think Jesse helped much with that. And then Gabler, I kind of assumed he was good at fire. I don't know if that was particularly talked about, but I did kind of assume that he had practiced that quite a bit. Gabler strikes me as the type of person that wouldn't go on Survivor if he didn't know how to make a fire, whereas Jesse's the type of person that's like, okay, I'm going to go on Survivor because it's an adventure and I love the game of Survivor. Whereas Gabler's like, how can you go on Survivor and not make a fire? And I think that Owen's probably like that too. So then Gabler, I think it was for a bit higher of an extent. And they threw Gabler into fire with Jesse because Gabler claimed that he was good in fire. We kind of saw Cassidy and Gabler weren't that close throughout the season, largely just because they're very different. And then Cassidy and Owen weren't really that close either, but they had a bit of a commonality in how big of a jury threat that they felt like the both of them were. So they kind of wanted to work with each other most of the time to, vote together and make it to the end together. That was mostly in the end game, though. They weren't super close throughout. Cassidy was pretty well positioned, wasn't really on the outs much other than the Janine vote. There might have been another time. But she was pretty much in the know, whereas Owen was left out of votes at points. But Cassidy and Owen still wanted to work together to some capacity in the end game to make it to the end together. But they didn't have particularly a strong commonality with Gabler. But they still wanted to go to the end with Gabler, and they still kind of acknowledged that Gabler was good at making fire. So it's okay, Cassidy wins the challenge. And then Cassidy, based off of the edit that we saw, it kind of felt like, I'm not talking about game, I'm not talking about jury votes, I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm saying, based off of the edit that we saw, I don't think anybody particularly felt like Cassidy needed to give up the necklace to take Jesse on and fire and win. I don't think anybody particularly thought that Cassidy needed to do that. I think people thought that Cassidy had the win in the bag anyways because of the edit. It's still kind of surprising that Gabler won, but it isn't. If you really pay attention to the season, the hints are there. Strategically, he did okay. Played almost a perfect game. James, you ruined it. Screw you. Just kidding. So, yeah. But I kind of knew Jesse was gone. He had that one emotional confessional where he was just like, it all comes down to this. My entire future is banking on this. Yeah, and like I just didn't think it was gonna work out for him. He had that really sad moment afterwards where he's just like, "Yeah, I'm always hustling my whole life. Things can't work out. I came so close, felt like I was playing well," and he's in that emotional moment. Really, really raw emotions there. But they made it too obvious that Jesse was gonna win if he made it to the end. Where I was like, Jesse has to go home at 4. Like, there's no way this guy's making it to the end. It's just way too obvious of a win. We've seen obvious wins before, and I actually think a Jesse win would have been really satisfying. I think that like right next to Gabler, I personally thought like I think Gabler winning was my favorite outcome. Carla I knew was a jury threat. I'm just not personally a Carla fan. I think she's overrated. Cassidy winning, and then Owen winning, same. Just like no, like Owen was like too much of an underdog. Kind of got way too negative of an edit, and then Cassidy was just kind of bland for most of the season. I wasn't like a huge fan, and then Carla, I just don't. I'm not really that big of a fan. I just think she's overrated personally. So I was really like thinking like, okay, I want Gabler or Jesse to win. I want Gabler to win because it's funny and it's kind of unpredictable, and I want Jesse to win even if it's a really boring FTC. I'd also really like a Jesse win because it's satisfying. I like Jesse, good player. The great player won. Yay! Even if it's like a boring FTC, it would have been a satisfying conclusion for sure. Um, but I kind of assumed it wasn't going to happen. So I knew it was a super obvious win for Jesse if he made it to the end. However, I felt like Gabler winning would be a little bit more unpredictable and a little bit more exciting, and that's exactly what happened. It was a great finale because of it. Um, so yeah, I liked Gabler a lot throughout this entire season. Really funny. He was sometimes underrated at points, but he just Gabler. He hit, and then he was able to pull out the win. Very happy for him. So Jesse ends up being the fallen angel. Yeah, we have that whole emotional segment. He walks out. We have our final 3: Cassidy, Gabler, Owen. My gut was telling me that Gabler is going to win because when I really looked at his game and I really looked at the jury, I was like, I think Gabler has this win. I think that he has the relationships. I think that he has the game. I feel like he's played a more interesting game than Cassidy and Owen can say. Cassidy was like in the majority a lot of the time, but didn't really do anything particularly to stand out and make her seem exciting as a player. And then Owen, a more interesting narrative throughout, but was left out too much. Had too many underdog moments. You always like sometimes root for the underdog, but not when you're like left out of votes and like you lacked agency, and thus it felt like you didn't really do much in the game. Um, but yeah, Owen ended up being a 0 vote finalist, which we got that one confessional where he's like, I didn't come all the way out here to be a 0 vote finalist. Like, says it like verbatim. Like, I think a lot of people are just like, it's too obvious. That's probably, they're just like messing with him. He literally says it, and it happens. And, the editors were like messing with him at many points throughout the season. I mean, they don't like play like, triumphant music on him. They just kind of play dodo music. He had like the job title no advantage at that one time where he was like laying out what everyone had. And he said at one point in a confessional how he didn't know what a certain person had or whether they had something or not, or that he didn't know what everyone had, but he laid out everything out previously. The editors kind of did things where they didn't make Owen look as good at the edit as in the edit as they could have. I mean, Xander got a great edit and he got 0 votes at the end. Owen, I think, got a terrible edit. So you can mess people around because I don't particularly think that Owen actually played way worse than Xander did, but maybe it was a little bit easier to portray a positive light to the audience with Xander rather than Owen. But I still feel like they could have done more. So, yeah, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. Owen, he got 0 votes. Sorry, brother. You never want that to happen. But yeah, it didn't particularly surprise me. I thought he'd maybe get a vote. I was kind of thinking Noel and Slash or Sammy could vote for him. I thought that was a possibility, but I guess they were just like really impressed with what Gabler did, and Sammy spent the entire game with Gabler, and Noel I think thought that the Gabler had the best FTC performance. Because Cassidy, I feel like with Cassidy, she didn't really do much wrong. She was like pretty honest with her statements. And I think that her best FTC moment throughout the entire time was when she said, look, I didn't need to throw myself in fire with Jesse because I felt like I played the best game. I knew that Gabler was better in fire than me, so I made the strategic move that would give myself the best chance not to increase my resume by making a fire making win move, but rather just increasing my resume by getting rid of the person that has a better resume than me. She admitted that Jesse played better than her. So, and basically said, like, I need Jesse out. So I need to maximize my chances of making that happen to the best of my ability. That was her best moment. However, it still feels like it's a sad reality. I don't really understand it. But it seems like making fire in front of the jury is like really respected. Like they love seeing that. Making fire in front of the jury. We're all doing it in front of you. You're beating one person in a challenge. If you win an individual immunity challenge, any of the individual immunity challenges should be more impressive and should impress a jury more than a fire making win. But making fire in front of the jury is like loved for some reason. So I don't know, just a rant there, but I don't particularly understand it. I mean, I guess giving up individual immunity and putting yourself in fire, it's not a unique move. It's been done before. It's been talked about by Dom, and it was actually done by Chris. So it's been talked about before. I think Natalie Anderson considered it. Xander sort of considered it. So it's not like a unique move, but it's considered to be like the biggest move you can make in the game. So yeah, I think it's like respected a lot. So I think that a lot of people are just like, no, Cassidy, you should have given up that necklace and you should have put yourself in fire with Jesse and you should have taken him down. But her best moment was just saying, hey, I shouldn't have had to do that. Gabler's better at fire than me. Even Owen's better than fire than me. She didn't have to say that part. I don't know if she actually did or not. I don't think she did. But she was saying, my goal is just to get Jesse out. It doesn't matter how it happens, but I need Jesse out. And then she got Jesse out. So I think that was probably her best moment. But Gabler, he made the jury laugh. You know, like Tony Vlachos did that. And I thought that was going to be the last time that anybody was able to make a jury laugh and like be very intrigued by what somebody has to say. So he comes in and he's like, okay, you know, I started off this game, it was very rocky, and then the merge hits, and I make that massive move on Ellie in plain sight. And then everybody knew that it was me, so I went ahead and Allie Gablered, and I just like minimized myself a little bit. And the funny part is that the Ellie move was kind of like Gabler's only move. What else did Gabler do? Single-handedly take out Jesse? Cassidy put him in that position. Take out Carla? It was unanimous. Gabler didn't have much of a say. The Cody move, pretty much all Jesse. Sammy move, everybody did it. The Noel move, he was a swing vote. I don't think he orchestrated much, but he had a pretty good level of agency there. But he was more of a swing vote than a controller. Yeah. And then you even have, you know, Ryan going home. Gabler was just kind of a bystander. He was just kind of like there. And then, you know, Cody and Jesse wanted to protect him, thinking that he was a straight shooter, good ally to have, kind of a shield, could go home at any time. And then I guess Cody and Jesse just decided, okay, we're going to vote Ryan out instead of Cassidy, and we're going to tell Gabler that's what's happening. You're just going to have to go along with it. So my point is, Gabler didn't really do much other than the Ellie move. But what I thought was really interesting is how every vote after the Ellie move, it seemed to me like people forgot him. Forgot about him entirely. He made this massive move at that Ellie boot, and it happened so early on, Ellie wasn't even on the jury, that as more time passed, I think people just kind of forgot that he did that. You know, because you have the final 12 boot, he's immune, so he wins individual immunity with so many people competing. Final 11, I'm like thinking like he could go home right now. He like stands out, you know, like you don't want to stand out in any way. And a lot of the time, maybe like a socially incompetent sort of like outcast will be voted out. I'm not saying Janine particularly was that, but around the final 11 area, usually you'll have somebody that like is voted out because they're easier to get rid of. So I was thinking it could be Gabler because he stands out, but his social game I was thinking was maybe like too good where that was not the case. So I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, Gabler survived. Yay. Final 10 hits. Ryan goes home. Had nothing to do with Gabler. I'm not going to talk about the James boot because, I mean, Gabler didn't go to that tribal, but Gabler was, like, not in trouble at all. And I was like, okay, this is interesting, but maybe they just think, you know, Gabler's a good temporary ally to have that you can cut at any time, and he's a good shield that won't win every immunity. He won the final 12 one, which was a lot of other people were competing in that. Maybe they just thought, you know, Gabler can lose another time and he can just go home. Then final 8 hits. They don't want to take the Paralympian to the end, so Noelle just goes home. But then Sammy's shady. Sammy goes home, and all of a sudden Gabler's getting lower in that swamp, and then now like the eyes are peeking out of the swamp, and then the eyes go down, and then now he's in the swamp, and you know that he's there, but you can't see him. So final six hits, and nobody cared about Alec Gabler. Nobody cared that he was in the game, and he's just there, and Cody gets voted out for being like, I don't know, the next JT, but like a goofier JT. And then all of a sudden, Carla and Jesse are just seen as massive threats. And then Gabler's just there. So it's like you notice the main reason why he won is that he made this really massive move in plain sight that made him stand out epically in an insane way. Had a really rough pre-merge and made an amazing comeback. And then when he actually did come back and do all these great things, which is really just the Ellie boot, he just minimizes. And it's super interesting to me how his like threat level just like went away entirely. And every vote, it just diminished more and more and more. And he made it to the end. And he was able to pull out the win. It's crazy. It's mind-blowing. It's absolutely insane. So he was able to pull out this win. Very, very happy for him. And then we have the reunion, which I liked that they showed some flashbacks. I liked that they added music, too. I felt like in Survivor 41 and 42, there was no music. It was kind of boring, actually. I did not like watching that at all. I think that they got some critics. It's not something that, like, super-duper fans would, like, DM them and say, hey, there was no music in the reunion, the after show. It was boring. Nobody would say that, but I think that, like, the casual critics, as well as maybe, like, other production members, or even maybe the editors kind of looked at it and they're like, something's missing here. So they kind of, like, edited the after show to make it a little bit more exciting. But I still don't like it. I don't particularly like it. So it's not something I particularly agree with. But, you know, I wish we had the reunion back. Like, give us one of these two things. Give us 39 days or give us the reunion. Like, you got to give us at least one. Why? Like, I'd like at least one of them back. I don't particularly like that they do this. So I think that they should get rid of, I'd like both of them ideally, but I think that they should at least give us one of them. That's how I feel about that. I mean, the thing is with a reunion, like, I like to, like, see, where are you guys now? You know, like, there's things that I want to know. Like, I want to know, like, you know, Gabler, congratulations on the win. Like, it's been a while now. You gave all that money away. Like, are you okay that you don't have that $1 million now? Like, are you still just happy that you have the title? Cassidy, how did you deal with this loss? You know, how are you grieving that process? Owen, you know, as you clearly saw in the edit, you looked like a bit of a buffoon at points, even though you're definitely not. Like, how do you feel about the edit that you got on the show? How do you feel like how you were portrayed? I want to know these types of things. You know, like, and I feel like they don't care about that. You know, they don't seem to care that they're doing that. So yeah, I don't particularly agree with their decisions to do this. And they're doing it to save money, and I don't particularly like it. But yeah, I'm not an exec. Like, I can't change that. I just don't agree with it. That's all. So we got this was super interesting. So the Survivor 44 preview, it looks really good. And like Jeff was just like, it's one of the most entertaining seasons ever. You know, they're stripped to their core. It's gonna be crazy. For this preview, I have a good feeling about it. They like hyped it up more than they usually do. I feel like I like have a decent idea of like who the cast members are, more so than I normally would coming into a season, just based off of a preview. I just feel a good vibe about this. Something feels really good here, and I think that Survivor 44 is going to be a very good season. I think that Bruce dude, if you go on Inside Survivor, you'll know their names. But that Bruce dude, I think he's going to be the one that goes down, because in the preview, he was like kind of like blocking his head, and then we have all the paramedics. So maybe Bruce is going to be like a day one medevac. I think Yam Yam's going to last a long time. I don't know all their names, so I'm not going to talk too much about their names. Like, we don't know anything about them. We know a little bit, but not much. Like, you don't get much information from their voice, what they look like, their job, their age, where they're from, and their social media handles. That's like a lot numerically, but it doesn't give you like a great gauge of who they are. So I think it's a little early to know how exactly they're going to do. Um, Based off of that, like you can't really like assess that properly. But I have like an intrinsically strong belief that this season is going to be very good. I think it's highly regarded from production, if I've heard. I'm not going to say anything else though. I know that production has said that they like this season. That was leaked. That they like this season. It's a great season. That's good to hear. It's good to hear. I mean, we don't know why it's good, but apparently it's going to be definitely like an above average season. So that's exciting. I'm hoping that it's the best season since David versus Goliath. That would be awesome. Because yeah, I think that like in recent seasons, like David versus Goliath was really good, and Winners at War was really good, and I think that those are two seasons that are hard to top. And some have been able to do it. Heroes versus Villains did it. Kageon did it. But every other season, it's just kind of like did it really top it? Like you could say Borneo or Pearl Islands maybe did, but David versus Goliath and Winners at War are both two seasons that are very difficult to top. But I think Survivor 44 could come close or even get to that point. So I'm looking forward to it. It looks very promising. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. I'm super happy for Gabler. I cannot believe that he pulled out that win. So exciting. Crazy. A lot of people a lot of fans complained. Why? Why are you complaining? This was like, I understand if you're a Jesse stan, but coming into this finale, how could like Gabler not be your second favorite to win? Like, how is that not second best case scenario? And Jesse winning was like too predictable. It's like going into the finale, you thought he'd win. Most people thought he'd win. And going in FTC, if he's there, he's going to win. It's like Gabler winning like made the finale kind of more exciting. I'm a Gabler stan. I wanted him to win more than Jesse, partially because it was like more unpredictable. But Gabler was actually like my favorite person on this season. Very rare that my favorite on a season wins. So I was super excited about that. But I was just very surprised that fans were angry with this result. Shut up! Like Gabler's a king. Get out of here. So I didn't really like that. Gabler's amazing. Yeah, I don't know why anybody complained. So yeah. So that's it for me. I haven't hopped on this channel in a while. Like before this when I did all these recaps, I was not on this channel for a long time. So it's been good to be back. I might do this again for 44. We'll see. Not sure yet, but yeah, with that being said, I'm JPP Productions. Thank you guys for looking and watching my Survivor 43 recaps. Maybe you're only watching this one. Maybe you watched all of them. Maybe you only watched some of them. I don't really know. But either way, anybody who comes onto my channel and clicks one of my videos, no matter the reason, no matter what it is, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm JPP Productions. See you guys.